Target employees, what's the worst incident you've witnessed with one of the giant red balls in front of the store? We used to put clothes over them in the summer so they would look a little like beach balls. A little kid ran full force and kicked one as hard as he could. He broke his foot. Target doesn't do that anymore. From reading all these comments, I think that if aliens wanted to destroy humanity in an inexpensive way, they would just drop a bunch of concrete balls on Earth. I think when the Nintendo Switch came out they put these covers on them, one with Mario's face and the other with Luigi. I saw a young boy, no older than 8-9, kissing it for a little too long on Mario's nose. Mamma mia. Former Target employee, someone rammed their cart into one and almost fricked up their TV. Also, kids thinking it's a playground and busting their butt on solid concrete. I saw a kid who thought it was a bouncy ball and tried to do a cannonball type landing on it. He found out quick that it's concrete. As a ex-employee, some random dude took a dump one of the red balls before the store opened. Was like 6 AM to 7 AM. It was odd. Dang, that dude had balls to pull that off. Not really worst incident, but where else would I have the opportunity to talk about Target balls? And I currently, actually, am an employee. On my orientation day the head HR guy was giving us a tour when we got to the red balls. He told us our store has a designated ball cleaner. To this day, way later, I'm not sure if he was joking or not because I haven't seen one, but they're always pristine looking. It's probably the PMT LOL. They pressure wash the sidewalks in front of the store, so they probably pressure wash the balls too. I thought no one would ever ask. When they first installed them at the Target by me, we heard a guy exclaim, "Look at them red balls," and he then excitedly ran up to one and kicked it hard. He yelled, "Goddamn, they're made of concrete," before he sat down. This wasn't a kid. This guy was probably mid-40s. I could not stop laughing. Our local park has those giant concrete balls. They look a lot like the Target ones, but they're painted to look like actual sport balls, which makes them more tempting apparently. The amount of people who injure themselves from running up to them and kicking them is way higher than it should be. Most of them aren't kids either. My mom is completely oblivious. She wasn't paying attention and just walked right into one. She just flipped right over it and face planted onto the cement. Ouch. An elderly woman crashed her car right into it and the thing rolled all the way down to the movie theater while one of the managers was chasing it. This happened in a Kentucky store and I watched the entire thing happen. I'm imagining the whole scene with yakety sax playing in my head. Past employee. So when Target first opened in Canada it was the biggest thing. Cool, right? So I had a guest come into the guest service and asking me if they can buy the giant red balls. I said no, sorry, you can't, they're out for sale. They raised their voice at me to talk to the manager, and so I called the front store manager and my manager said the same thing. The balls aren't for sale. The guest was so angry because we wouldn't sell them the giant red balls. I didn't know those balls were cement. For some reason I thought they would be soft. So I ran up and kicked one. I was old enough to know better. I was 23. Oops. Not a Target employee, but I once saw a teenage boy attempting to show off in front of the girl he was with. Try to jump over one. He landed on it with his legs wide open and fell off clutching his crotch. Everyone around the store entrance saw it. My brother did that when he was 12. He flipped over the ball and also face planted. I laughed my butt off because I told him he can't do it, that he'd just hurt himself. Not an employee. This is a thing I did and I'm not too proud of it. When one of the Mario Kart games was released, the Target near my house put some covers over them to promote the release. So when I was walking in I temporarily forgot that usually there's big red cement balls in those exact same spots and figured, hey, I'm gonna go punt the crap out of that big inflatable ball that for some reason hasn't rolled away all day, so I did and broke my foot and shin. That was a bad day. Not a Target employee, but I saw a father and his 2 children. I'm assuming relations, but you get the point. A boy and a girl. They were crawling up on them, and I guess he thought it would make a nice picture, the 2 of them getting along. So he steps back, turns around, only to see the boy push the girl off the ball. A kid climbed on one and then slipped and face-planted right on it. I couldn't help but laugh, even tough the kid cut his lip pretty bad. I worked there during the summer, and someone thought it was a parking space between them and then complained to me, guy who pushes the carts, that they didn't make the balls far enough to park between. Former employee at Target Granville, MI. A tornado hit and sent one of our balls an entire block over. Had Facebook friends taking pictures and posting about it all over social media. Wild times. That just puts weather into perspective, considering those it stopped a drunk driver from playing bowling with humans. Oh, one that actually applies to me. About a month ago we had to call an ambulance to our store because a guest had a seizure and cracked his skull open on the ball. Nice simple OC, I like it. Happened a year ago today. An idiot kid tripped while trying to jump over onto them and he completely faceplanted. It was wonderful. Very late to this party. I was sent to help open a Target store in Eureka, CA around 12 years ago. The second day on the job I was walking into the store and I saw something strange on top of the left wall by the door. It was a pile of human feces. So beautifully placed that I can't even describe it. It was like a human feces poop emoji. I don't know how long it had been there. My shift started around 8 AM and I walked inside and immediately let the lot manger in charge know what had happened. They sent the cart attendant who took off the orange reflective gear and quit on his first day at the beginning of the shift. I don't blame him at all. I would have done the same. Obligatory not an employee. My dad, brother, and I were going to Target. My dad jumped on one of the balls and pushed off and landed onto the floor. My brother then tried to copy what he did, but instead of pushing off and landing upright, he landed on his butt and started bawling. Cue my dad laughing his butt off. Cue. Not Target employee. Previous armored truck employee. Training guard rams the ball with the armored truck going maybe 5 miles per hour. The thing comes out of the ground and rolls into some carts down the street. He got fired. Not an employee, but every couple months someone paints one of the local Target's balls to look like a Pokemon ball. Eventually Target will paint it back to plain red. Then a few weeks later it gets painted back into a Pokemon ball. It just keeps repeating. It's been going on for almost 2 years now. This is amazing. My dad's girlfriend was handcuffed while leaning on one of the red balls as she waited for my dad to get the car and pick her up. She's Canadian and was on vacation in Orlando. As luck would have it, the police had been called about a middle-aged homeless lady who had been loitering and begging for money outside of the store. When police arrived they saw my dad's girlfriend, who more or less fit the same physical description. Since this would be the second time that day they asked the lady to leave, they decided to cuff her. When my dad pulled up, they had his girlfriend bent over the ball with her hands cuffed behind her back. She was crying, pleading and trying to explain they were mistaken, but they were having none of it. Eventually, they realized their error and let her go. In their defense, my dad's girlfriend looks as if she could be homeless when in reality she is an extremely successful and wealthy psychologist. Goddamn America. When I was a kid, my aunt told me that the giant red balls were just big beach balls. So me, being a child, ran up and kicked full force into one of them. Dang near broke my foot. She thought it was hilarious. Thinking back, it totally was. Not an employee, but some kid was wearing cleats and tried to step over it and ate crap after slipping off. Polished surfaces and athletic shoes never work well together. Not an employee, but one time I was sitting in my car browsing Reddit outside of Target, waiting for my family to finish shopping. I was at the parking spot closest to those big red balls. Out of nowhere, a car rammed full speed into one of them. The front of the car was completely destroyed inward and there was a ton of smoke. To my surprise, the ball didn't even budge. It turned out it was a drunk driver that hit it, and the police report stated that if the ball wasn't there, a huge group of people exiting the store would have been seriously injured or killed. The Target ball only lost a little paint and has remained a town hero ever since. The funny thing was that it was so hardly damaged they didn't even bother fixing it. That day I really learned how durable a Target ball is. That's exactly why they are there, so it's nice to see they work. Those red balls are almost certainly rooted to the ground with rebar or a giant pipe. They look unstable, but they are effectively no different than big metal pillars. Bollards. They're interesting, themed, gigantic metal and concrete traffic bollards. Former Target Asset Protection LP. Many skateboarding accidents. People falling and busting their heads standing on them taking pics. Homeless people standing on them practicing kung fu. Shoplifters running into them running away from us. Homeless people standing on them practicing kung fu. Kinda want to see that LMAO. NOOOO. There's finally an AMA I'm qualified for. Former Target employee, but our store didn't have the giant red balls. This is extremely upsetting. That's your Target ball tragedy. Oh, you're in. As an Australian, I'm really confused by this thread. See, we have a department store here called Target. It has a giant red target as its logo, but the companies are completely unrelated. So I'm reading all this thinking, what fricking red balls? Oh crap. Till that the Target I used to go to as a kid living in the Philippines was Australian Target and not US Target. My 6-year self is shaken. I thought all Targets were US Targets. This is probably going to get lost in the source, but former Target employee aka team member. I worked at Target for 3 years. I was also a smoker at the time, so I would have a front row seat of the giant red balls on the daily. There were a lot of accidents that involved people running into, jumping off of, jumping into the red balls. We had to call an ambulance a few times. However, the best story with the red balls was one busy day, I believe a Saturday before Christmas. There was a teenage couple having a moment at the red balls. I was taking my break and having a smoke while this all went down. Teenage couple comes out of store arguing about something. They stop and continue arguing by the balls. The argument gets heated to the point where their hormones are raging. The girl pushes the guy onto one of the red balls into a sitting position and she straddles him and starts making out. They were grinding and humping each other. I went inside and told the front end team lead about it and they called the app to tell them to stop. By the time app came, it had already been going on for 5 minutes straight and a crowd had gathered of all ages. Target was a weird place to work. TLDR. Teenage couple literally dry humped each other on these freaking red balls. Not an employee, but when my brother was maybe 4 or 5 he'd attempt to jump over on them and proceed to smash his nuts and cry. LMAO. While working during a pretty intense storm, I saw a grown man casually walk up and stand on one. I thought I was going to see him die as well, but he hopped down and went on with his day. Pre-ball installation, people used to pull their cars right up to the doors when it rained. Live in Florida and we would get some torrential rain now and then to pick up the rest of the family they came with, who waited at the front. And by pull up, I mean literally practically inside the doors. Well, after the balls were installed, it didn't stop people from trying to do this. They would either pull right alongside the front, blocking traffic, or try to squeeze in between the balls. I witnessed on separate occasions at least 5 cars leave with a red gash down the side of their car, all because they couldn't spare a few minutes to wait for the rain to pass. I was between 7 and 9 when they put them in front of my local Target. I remember the very first time I saw them. I thought they were like a big kickball, so I ran as fast as I could and kicked the crap out of one. Can now confirm, they are not large kickballs. After the red balls were first debuted, they decided to put covers on them for summer to make them look like beach balls. Lasted about a week as multiple people ran at them trying to kick them and most definitely broke their feet in multiple places. Lots of lawsuits were coming up since they looked like beach balls, which was apparently misleading enough to give guests deniability of fault. Source: corporate employee at the time. Marketing #P. Not being American, I have absolutely no clue how big these balls are. I'm gonna read some comments and get back to you. Former Target employee. Not really an incident, but the mall it was attached to decided to remodel into an outdoor mall. Never mind that we live in the Pacific Northwest and it rains 9 months out of the year, and I guess they decided they liked the red balls, because they purchased 12 more and painted concrete balls of the exact same size and posted them outside all the store entrances. My favorite was watching a kid run up to one of the red balls and with all the force his little legs could make gave the ball a giant kick. Needless to say, he instantly regretted that decision. Former employee, but one time I came into work and there was nobody at the desk to buzz me in, so I had to walk in the front. I had the pleasure of watching someone walk into a ball and flipping over it. I made sure the guy was okay and helped him to his car, which was an RV, which was weird because we don't live around any forests and it was January, but who am I to judge? I come into work the next morning for an open and the dude's RV was burned out and his crap was all over the parking lot and the RV was still on fire. My man was nowhere to be found. I'm not sure him flipping over the Red Bull incited the insurance fraud, but I'm hoping it did so it fits the narrative of the question. Someone tried to steal it. Loss prevention flayed him alive and kept the pieces on display around the store to deter thieves. You should really put a generous layer of cork around the balls. Then when anyone messes with them, you just say, "Hey, don't mess with my cork and balls." Not an employee, just a stupid person who tried to jump over the ball and face planted onto cement. I was with some friends and I am that friend, so of course I take off full sprint ready to pull some elaborate parkour gymnastic trick, and as I put my hands on the ball and jump with my legs spread open, my feet get caught on the side and I busted it. Face first on the ground. Needless to say, I still jump the red ball every time I go to a Target. A guy backed his truck into it trying to park in front of the store. IDK how you missed them, but somehow he did. Another time when I was a new hire, a guy shoplifted and was running from LP, and in an act of a miracle he ran into one. Again, IDK how? They're big and red. How? We put beach ball covers on them and guests kicked them. Not a fun day to be working the service desk. I think we took them down the next day. Oh hey, I can contribute. So my ex-girlfriend's old friend's high school boyfriend, the connection is very important, got drunk with a few of his buddies one night. So naturally they decided to drive one of their pickup trucks to Target and steal a red ball. Apparently they successfully made it to Target, somehow dislodged a ball, or found a loose one, loaded it into their truck, and drove away with it in the back. Naturally, they got hungry on the way back and decided to stop for food on the way home, so they stayed on a main road, parked outside of a fast food restaurant in the parking lot, enjoyed their drunk meal, and proceeded to get arrested on felony charges because apparently those red Target balls cost many thousands of dollars. Funny story, but the connection doesn't seem to play into it at all. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.